So this is a rough diagram of how we've implemented a stock manager and backtest. We've used Flask this time to build a UI for the various interactions like adding, deleting portfolios, adding stocks, and so on. We've also used Docker, so everything is containerized. It helps us reduce the issue of different versions and stuff like that. Uh, the other important file is the strategies, where we have different strategies added to it, and uh, we can select which strategy we want to execute on which particular portfolio as well. Other than that, it's pretty much the same structure as the previous lab for pre-processing and storage of data. The only new thing over here is the Parquet file format, which we are using to perform analysis. The logic is simple. There are two layers. The first layer is the master rule. In this, the strategy first checks if the stock's current price is above its 200-day simple moving average or the 200-day SMA value. In the next layer, which is a set of checks, in this layer, I've used three different indicators. All of them form a consensus score. So the first indicator is the momentum, which is also called as the MACD. The strategy checks if the MACD line is above the signal line. Now, this being a classic momentum indicator, it tells us if the trend has immediate strength or not. The second is the RSI. Over here, the strategy checks if the RSI, and in particular the RSI 14, is greater than 50 or not. What RSI does is it measures the strength of buying pressure versus selling pressure, and a value above 50 indicates that buyers have had more control than the sellers over the last 14 days. And the third and the last indicator is a 20-day SMA. This sort of acts like a price check. In the over here, it checks if the closing price is above the SMA 20 value. If it is, this confirms that the stock's current price is a strong relative to its average price over the last month or 30 trading days. To understand the logic and the consensus part better, let's take an example. Let's say we want to trade McDonald's, and the trading price for McDonald's is $155, which is its closing price on 20th September 2025. That's it. Now, first thing that the strategy does is it goes to the master rule. It checks if the 200-day SMA value is less than the closing price, which is 155. Let's say the 200-day SMA value is 140. In this case, it is true 155 is greater than 140. Now, if this is true, it moves on to the next part, which is the set of checks. Now, the first check is for the MACD line, which is the momentum line. Now, over here, if the condition for the MACD value is also true, a score of +1 is assigned. Then it moves on to the next condition, which is the RSI. If the RSI value is above 50, it means it satisfies the condition, and now the score is +2. The third and the last indicator, which is the closing price, the 20-day SMA value. Now, if this condition is also satisfied, the score is now +3. What this tells us that the final score after all the three checks is +3. And the master rule has also been passed. Therefore, the strategy generates a buy signal for McDonald's on that particular day. So this is a home page for the Upflask app. It has different options such as create portfolio, manage stock for a particular portfolio, run backtest on a particular portfolio, and so on. Let's say we want to create a new portfolio. We can give it a portfolio name. Let's say test 3. It creates a portfolio with that name. We want to manage stocks. Let's say we want to add a stock in it. It is, let's say, Tesla. I'm not sure if it's the right symbol. Oh, it is. In case we add a random ticker symbol, it will give an error that it's not a valid ticker. So we won't be able to add any random stuff to our portfolio. Now we can also remove a stock that's added to a portfolio and the stock is deleted from that particular portfolio, as well as we can remove the particular portfolio itself by clicking on delete. Now, the main thing, which is the back test or trying out different strategies for a particular portfolio. Now, we're going to test out a few strategies, let's say on the portfolio number 1, which is test. And as you can see over here, it already has 3 different stocks added to it. Now we want to run backtest on this portfolio. We can just go to run backtest. Now, what you see over here are different symbols, different placeholder values and stuff. The first part is selecting the portfolio. The first option allows us to select the right portfolio we want to run the test on. The strategy over here, we have 2 different strategies. The SMA crossover is just a placeholder. It does run a strategy, a simple SMA strategy, but it's not properly implemented. It's just to test out the interface itself. The other two, the consensus scoring and the EMA plus RSI crossover, those are properly implemented strategies. So let's say we want to run the EMA one. Now, for every strategy, there are certain conditions that should be met or a minimum criteria that should be followed. For the RSI one, the strategy's longest indicator is a 30-day EMA period. So we need a date range that is more than 30 days. If we were to do that, we can select the start and the end date for it. Let's go back, let's say 1st of May to 15th of September. Over here, we define our starting cash. In this case, the default is 10,000. And once we run the backtest, it fetches the data for that particular date range, runs the backtest, and gives us the result. The different action that it did, which is the different signals that were generated buy and sell according to the strategy, the different trades that are executed, the different prices on those particular days that are selected, and other things like the Sharpe ratio, the portfolio value, the profit and loss, etc. The other interesting thing is we can also save the session. So whatever backtest we ran on portfolio 1 using strategy, let's say the RSI crossover, can be saved as a proper session itself. Or we can download the results in a CVS file itself, like you can see over here. Let's say test 1, report 1, CVS. Once it's downloaded, we can take a look at that. It has all the key details that we need. The other part is the data that it was using, that the data that it downloaded for analysis, running the strategy. It is not stored in MySQL. So for that, we use something called as the Parquet or Parquet file, whatever you want to call it. So it stores the data for analysis in those particular files instead of a MySQL file because it's much easier and faster to access. MySQL also has its advantages, but we wanted to try out and experiment with a different file format, so we went with this. And That is pretty much the backtest interface and running of it. Let's say for the similar portfolio, we can try running a different strategy, which is the consensus scoring. If we select that and if we run that. So for the consensus scoring, as you can see, it says over here the strategy uses a 200-day trend filter. So for that filters, we have to select a date range of at least 1 year for that to be effective. So the results that you see right now are not the actual results because the date range is not correct. For that, we'll have to set the date range to something else. Let's say 23, Jan 23, 1st Jan 23 to 1st Feb 2025, and the starting cash is same. Now, if we run the back test, the results are different. So the results won't necessarily be better. They will obviously differ, and depending on the date range and the conditions that we select, the conditions that are defined for that strategy, that is how it's going to execute the code. So this is pretty much the history of it, the gist of our Flask mock trading app.
Hi, my name is Jay Desai. I am part of the ADS team, and I would like to show you my approach for the trading system. So this system features a complete trading workflow, which includes portfolio management, real-time data fetching, which we had already done in the previous lab. Uh, so here everything is accessible through a unified command line interface with MySQL database backend for reliable data persistence. So let me show you how this works. So I will start by launching the application. Okay, so first we'll check which portfolios do we have. List existing portfolios. So there are currently these different types of portfolios that we have. Let's select a portfolio with ID number 4. So here, let's go back. Stock manager. So show stocks with existing profile. We are going for ID with 4, so we have the stocks available right now. So let's go back, and we already have fetched the stock prices for you for this particular profile. Now let's go for perform trade. Now let's select the ID that we are looking at, which is ID number 4. Let's select the year 2021 0101 to 2022. Well, 31. So let's keep the initial cash that we have to be 100,000. The initial transaction cost, which will be added for each transaction that happens. Let's keep it 10. So if we want, we can use advanced, we can change the features such as moving average window or RSI levels. So let's keep it, uh, let's change it. So let's keep the MA window to 1, that's all 10, and RSI 70. So it shows that The starting capital was $100,000, which and the final capital after trading was 109,462.51. This shows that the ratio is greater than zero point 0.5. The total return is 9.46. Annual return will be 4.63. Uh, uh, and other matrices such as Sharpe ratio, Kalman ratio, and volatility in the fluctuation of the stock during this period, and it will show that profit returns are greater than 5%, which is a good thing for a 2 years of span. And yeah, this result was saved to the CSV file, and an image was also created which shows the trading patterns matching and the metadata that is available here, which includes the total return, annual return, and Sharpe ratio.
Hello, this is Shivani from Group ADS. So, in the before assignment, we had already done the data pre-processing and data collection for the stock data set. This time, we have tried to implement the strategy. The strategy that I was working on is based on technical indicators basically. So I have used like simple moving averages to capture short and long term trends, the relative strength index RSI to identify the overbought and oversold conditions, and then other momentum confirmation things. So by combining all these indicators, the strategy avoids the relying on just one of the signal and makes it more reliable and more accurate. So the optimized trading plan is like, so for the buy condition, the 20-day SMA is greater than 50 days SMA and the RSI is below 35. The stock trending is upward but oversold, and it's good entry point, so it gets the stock, basically buys the stock. And then the sell condition is when the 20-day SMA drops below 50 days SMA or RSI goes above 60, the signal weakens in the trends or the stocks is overbought. And the other condition is the hold condition, which provides unnecessary stocks. So here I have like given $1,000 as the initial balance, and yeah, I've tried to use that as the initial point. Then the backest strategy would be, so as you can see in the results, what we're getting. So the first portfolio value is like, it goes to more than 110k dollars. So the total return was like 10.71%, and the profit was like above $10,700, and the annual return is 5.25%, showing that it's like a consistent growth. And the Sharpe ratio is also 0.52, which is above zero point 0.5 threshold. That means the strategy is like good, decent actually, and less risky. Then the performance interpretation shows the same thing, that the Sharpe ratio is above zero point 0.5, decent risk adjusted return, and the total is above 10%, which shows that the strategy is highly profitable. Uh, only about like 10 trades were made in this study. And the visualization results, so in this, the top chart shows the stock price with buys and sales signals. Green arrow makes buy signal and red arrow makes the sell signals. Closed threads are highlighted in the green if profitable and red if not. The middle chart shows the profit and loss of each trade. Most of the dots are like green, which means the trades were profitable, though the few small losses were occurred. And the bottom chart shows the cumulative return compared to the benchmark. The green shaded area highlighted profitable runs, and the red shaded area is basically the markdowns. that is the strategy that I tried to implement. Basically, this is like my side of the work. My other teammates would explain whatever they have done.